I would like to invite our panelists, Allashyam CharaN, CEO Quantum Robotics, and Mr. Gururaj A, the Head of Operations at Optimus Electronics. This chat would be led by Mr. Rahul Bedi, who's the Vice President of Software Engineering at NXP Semiconductors. Over to you, Rahul, sir.
So yes, this is a fireside chat, and as you can see, the three of us, none of us has any fire around us. So hopefully, you can visualize us sitting comfortably with a drink in our hand around a little fireside somewhere. But so that with that kind of a mental picture, let's get started. So I've been in the software and the IT industry for a very long time. Seen the industry move from where it was kind of pure play services long time back to where we're building state-of-the-art products and technologies out of the country. And it's but natural that the next level of evolution would be in kind of driving and taking some of these things that get designed here into actual production. And the government's been working on this for a while. There have been various schemes that have come out over the last many years, and at least last couple of years, strong focus on it. And I think I truly believe that looking at things around us, the geopolitics and all the different things coming in, there are significant tailwinds for India to leapfrog in this space. So that's going to be the topic that we'll talk about today. And with that, I would ask Mr. Gururaj to maybe have some opening remarks, and then we'll follow up with you, Mr. CharaN, and then let's get going.
Okay, thanks, Nescom, and thanks, Rahul. I've been a hardcore manufacturing guy all my life, except when I was in the US many years ago. I think when I first talked about electronics manufacturing in India in 2006, when I was MD of electronics, where we manufactured one of the earliest mobile phones in India, people kind of gave me weird looks saying, this guy is off the rocker, right? So, and from there, we've come to a point where I was MD of Wistron, which has manufactured the highest end mobile phone in the world, and importantly, like I say, that in terms of government focus, the Prime Minister of India spoke about electronics manufacturing. That was the only industry segment he spoke about in the Independence Day speech in the Red Fort this year. So that's how important it is for the country, and things, and then as we talk, we'll elaborate on how movement has really happened. To the topic that is this India's decade, I have no doubts, and we'll come back and talk more.
Thank you, CharaN. Would you like to give in a few remarks?
Yeah, sure. This is CharaN, and recently I have started my company in the 2021, and its name is Quantum Robotics. And we came up with the two type of segments. One is for the education and one is for the manufacturing segments. One is when we started the company, it is in the time of a COVID situation. And in this particular COVID situation, all the students are looking for the online internship and the online type of things. In this particular online scenario, here we can help them through giving us an internship, workshop, and latest type of technologies in the robotics, artificial intelligence, IoT. That's why we have started through the internship part, and later we come into the manufacturing. And we have been collaborated with the 12 best more companies in all over the world, in the different type of segments like IoT, artificial intelligence, and the data science, and different type of segments at 12 plus. And it means the collaborative way to give the best skills for our Indian manufacturing sector. And we can understand that what was the other countries following the latest type of technologies. And here we are going to implement in these particular segments. This is all about myself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So with that set of opening remarks, maybe let's start off with the first question of the chat, right? So that's actually maybe Mr. Gururaj, it's to you, right? So maybe if you could talk about, your extreme extensive experience in this space. How do you see the landscape has changed in the electronics manufacturing sector, including things like labor, power, water, land, and so on and so forth, as you've seen the industry transform over the last many decades? Would love to hear from you on that.
I think there has been a paradigm shift. Like I said in my opening remarks, when I first went to Chennai when the Flex factory was built, People didn't even believe mobiles could be made in India, and now iPhones are made in India. So I think few things have changed, and few things have not changed. And we need better, we need bigger change. What has changed, I think, is the fundamental mindset that manufacturing can happen in India. Right? I had a tough time, in 2006, getting even 50 or 60 people to work on the shop floor. And now, where I had the factories and all that. For example, the iPhone factory in Kolar in Bangalore has something like 12 or 13,000 people, right? So that is one. So I think the belief probably if you buy an iPhone today, the latest version or something, don't be surprised that it comes out of the factory in Kolar, Bangalore, right? And I think that is what has changed. That's number one. Number two, I think, or maybe that could be number one also, is the government's approach to manufacturing. I think. The government is, especially under the leadership of Mr. Narendra Modi. I had the opportunity of traveling with him in 2012 to China when he was CM of Gujarat, and his mind was always on manufacturing. I've seen it 10 years ago, when I traveled with him. And so I think the government's approach, importance, focus, and especially the PLI schemes and all that, even now, that's the government thing has been a paradigm shift. The third is, the pride. I think some of us, if not all, I mean, I've met people even in semi-rural India who kind of feel very proud that say, hey, ye to India mein bana hai, kind of thing, made in India. So, so that slowly is creeping in. And if you buy a phone today, they have to write, it's made in India, right, on that box. So, that aspect. The next is the skill levels. We really had little or no skill levels, zero, like I said in the beginning. I think a lot of institutions, the government are paying attention to that. But that's an area, where there is a lot of work to be done, which is one of the questions that we have down the line. So what has not changed, is the land acquisition and the pain of land acquisition. That continues to be an extremely painful task. And I think the governments are trying to do better, but I think land acquisition still continues to be, difficult. For somebody like a Foxconn or Samsung or something, we are not in the business of dealing with land, right? We're in the business of building up products. But we spend so much time, doing the land acquisition business. So power, I think the government has taken enough care to provide power. I think that's not an issue. We're going to talk a little bit about the logistics thing down the line. That also has improved, but needs to improve. But overall, has there been a paradigm shift? Without doubt. I mean, I would say, hands down, we've made, like I said, gone from, the lowest end mobile phone to the iPhone being made in India now.
No, thank you. That's great, right? I mean, very clearly looking at what has happened over the last few years visibly, right? I mean, of course, this policy environment has changed, and also, some of the things that we're trying to get into. So to be honest with you, there are the way I look at it is, right. If I look at what would be the potential key technology trends in manufacturing and technology, which would provide the tailwinds for India to excel in the next, say, 8 to 10 years. I mean, it looks at, apart from the policy environment, apart from the labor and all the power and everything else, I think there are a few areas that I believe would also help in that space, right? One is, we did that in cell phones. We moved from where I remember getting a landline phone used to be a Herculean task. It take, 8, 9, 10 years to get a landline phone, and we moved on to cell phones, which was a leapfrog. And I think we have an opportunity here as well in terms of how you leapfrog, and into things like adopting Industry 4.0 practices, right? Where you're looking at a significant amount of automation, a huge amount of intelligence built into how we manufacture. We have core technology in the country in enablers like AI, machine learning, which are no longer just buzzwords. These are things that are being applied in how some of the most state-of-the-art manufacturing setups truly run. And then interestingly, we also have very strong workforce and technology around us, where you have the IT sector that's actually doing a lot of stuff in that space. I mean, it's unbelievable to look at the fact that in some cases, in some of the semiconductor companies, some of their manufacturing operations are actually remotely run out of India. Right? It is unbelievable, but that happens. So there is enough technology that's kind of built in terms of doing some of these leapfrogging to Industry 4.0. Then I think if you look at things like what do we start manufacturing into, right? Here's another opportunity being selected, right? Where if you pick up opportunities, pick up market segments that have maybe more higher technology angle versus low technology. You gave a great example of iPhones, right? I mean, who would have thought that kind of a cutting edge product like an iPhone, and this is not the 10-year-old generation, this is the absolute latest and greatest, is actually going to get made here. I mean, that was unheard of, right? But it's happening. I think the geopolitical tailwinds have absolutely helped that stuff, coupled with what the government incentives and everything else. To me, that's an absolutely fantastic flag bearer of what you can do. There's discussion on the semiconductor space. Let's see what happens in all the semicon discussions underway with some of the large industry players. That's another area that will hopefully provide us the right tailwinds by creating this required semiconductor infrastructure within the country, which is a critical element of any high-tech manufacturing. I think the other part, which we'll anyway talk about later on also, is right. I mean, what do we do about some of the very basic infrastructure? It's strange that we have the most state-of-the-art technology in some areas, but right outside that, you've got a road that you have speed bumps all the way through. You can't even drive on it, right? So as an example. So I think those are some areas we would need to be cautious of to make sure that they don't become headwinds versus helping us getting tailwinds. But I think the last thing that I view in this space also is that if we take the experience that we have in the IT sector over the last, say, 3+ decades, in terms of what we've demonstrated in terms of evolution, I think we've got the DNA, we've got the understanding of what it takes to be in the high-tech space. But like you said, bring that all together, tie it up with into the manufacturing space, bring the pride that you're talking, which is actually very true, right? The whole mindset of manufacturing, and tie these two together. I think that can be a win-win combination for the success for this country in the manufacturing space over the next decade or so, right? So I truly believe that.
So Rahul, I must tell you something very interesting. Somebody very senior in this country, let me not name him, he said, given the geopolitical situation and given whatever is happening and the talent pool in India, right? India has to succeed not because of what it is, in spite of what it is. So, there are not too many choices in this world. And related to that, many years ago, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Terry Go. He founded Foxconn. I mean, we've all heard of Foxconn.
Mm-hmm.
And I had met Terry Go, in Taipei, and he made a very interesting statement. He said that, and we asked him, that are you planning to expand further than Vietnam, et cetera, and all those. He said, look, I would love to expand in Vietnam. We're very happy with Vietnam. But, I can get as many people in Vietnam as I can get in Chennai. So, I have to go to India. I can't get more people in Vietnam. And I can get the same people just in Chennai in India. And which is happening, they have a huge factory outside of Chennai.
Yeah.
So I think the availability of talent pool in this country and geopolitical tailwinds, like you very rightly mentioned, I think the world and the other thing is I want to add is the success has come. I am seeing in this role. I've been in this sector for years. Is the success is not just in the large corporations like Samsung or Vivo or Oppo or Foxconn or Wistron, but also in the small and medium enterprises. Mm-hmm. They have grown considerably. I won't say post-COVID. Today there's some news about the new variant, right? But anyway, let's not talk about that. But as COVID has kind of slowed down, massive increase in business, twofold, threefold in just a matter of 8-9 months. So the story is restricted to large corporations, but to the MSMEs as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And actually, let me segue into that, right? Because even if you look at the startup ecosystem today, it's very interesting and encouraging to see that some of the ideas that are being incubated in that ecosystem today are not just about how do I get the one loaf of bread to you in 10 minutes, but it's more also around the fact that, hey, how do you get into robotics? How do you get into drones? How do you get into some of these even manufacturing technologies that are potentially cutting edge, not just for India, but also for the world, right? So to me, that's very encouraging. And I think with that, maybe Charan, like to bring you in, right? Because you've been looking at 3D printing technology, right? You've been looking at some of the other stuff that we see behind you in your wallpaper that you have, right? And so maybe it'll be great if you could also maybe add to this conversation about how do you think the 3D printing technology is impacting cost, quality, and process optimization in the manufacturing sector as you see it?
Yeah, sure. And when we go within a manufacturing sector, here we have to monetize in the one is for the manufacturing, and one is for the supply chain management, and one is for the whatever the product we have to store it down. And here how we can save the cost by using of a 3D printer, whatever the amount of the plastic substances we are doing through the 3D printer. Here, the plastic granules will be in a lesser price, and here we can do as one example I can give you. If we use an acrylic sheet or else any type of a wooden sheet into the one type of a project, if we use the 3D printer material in another type of a project, here we can modelize according to our customization in the 3D printer. And when we go with an acrylic sheet, here we will be getting we have to compromise in a certain type of a designing part. And not only this, in the designing part, here we will be having an exact accuracy at the 3D printer. And we can customize the cost expenses when we go with a manufacturing, the storing capability should be in a high. And if we go with a mass manufacturing, we have to manufacture in the larger type of products, and we have to store it in the storage part. But if we go with the 3D printer part, we can manufacturing how much the required amount of things we need it on this spot. And why means it is in a speed, accurate, and the best product. It means that the cost efficiency will be decreased by using of a 3D printer, from my points.
So I think that's a great point. So what you're talking about is things like potentially inventory management becomes a lot easier because you're doing more like a just-in-time manufacturing, exactly what you need, versus manufacture something 6 months ahead of time and store it, and hopefully you let it sell out.
Yeah, we can compare. IIT Bombay, Tavassa company is there, and they have built as a 3D printed house in a span of 56 days. If you want to build as that particular house, like a double bedroom house, we need nearly 2 months or something else. But in the 56 days, they have built the whole house in a 56 days by using of a 3D printer. Here the time will be decreasing, and as well as the cost of expenditure. If we go within the general manufacturing of that particular home, it costs up to 20 lakhs to 25 lakhs. But if we come into the 3D printer, here 5 lakhs to 6 lakhs, the cost of expenditure also is going to decrease.
Charan, I had just one. Can I just make a point here?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Charan, I had a question. That came to my mind. So, in a company like yours, are you still going back to China for some of your prototyping or tooling or any? Are you still working with China in an active way?
Not it, sir. We are working with Japan and as well as US based companies. Here from the US only, we'll be getting the raw products and that all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And actually,
and the few of the China based companies also, we have it like a ZM boards and that all. But at the current situation, we are stopped the exporting from the China.
What about the infrastructure or the setup cost, right?
If we go within the laboratory setup cost in the schools and colleges, if we go with an educational part, here we'll be coming as a 12 lakhs to 15 lakhs of the setup cost. Here we'll be including as 3D printers, CNC machines, and the basic electronic kits and the sensors, modules. And not only that, we will be giving them as an access of our softwares, the Google Cloud connectivities. Here we are going to give is like a unique software systems, and giving them as a service based also.
Okay, got it. Great, thank you. Maybe switching gears a little bit, right? So, Mr. Gururaj, maybe something that you can maybe enlighten us on, right? What do you view as the challenges that companies existing and companies that will potentially come up with face on the various policy initiatives that we have?
I think I have gone through this, but three prime ministers, two prime ministers at least over the last 15 years, many chief ministers. The stress from the industry as an industry person for us has always been to the government that please implement the policies, right? I mean, there are a lot of policies, but for example, there was something called an MSIP scheme, right? Modified special incentive package for manufacturing, and a lot of companies made the decision to come to India. But I know many of these companies, in spite of having performed, have not got the money yet, right? So it sends a negative message to the world, because they're global companies and they go back and give that feedback to their investors and so on, and their board members and all that. So I think I think the government is extremely aggressive now with policies. There are, for many of you who might have heard or might not have heard, there is a production-linked incentive scheme, and there is a design, initiative, for which there are incentives. Then there is the logistics, which we're going to talk about. And I think the biggest challenge is for government to implement the great policies that they have made. And I think one of the second challenge is many of the policies are made by the center and implemented in the states, right? And so I think that this coordination between the center and the state, has a gap, and I think that's the other challenge. And I think we're going to talk about this maybe the next point, and that is the manpower issue, right? Blue collared workers. So I think that we'll elaborate on that in the next question.
Actually, but I've already covered that already. Maybe allude to that because it just fits right in.
Yeah. So I think I'll tell you, just before COVID, the situation was business was less, and there were lots of people looking for jobs. Today, there's plenty of business, and we're not able to find people. Right? This is the story. So, and I think when I say we don't find people, we don't find people with the right skill sets. Right? I mean, a simple thing, soldering. Right? I mean, hand soldering. If you want many electronic products, we've only talked about mobile, has boards on them which still need hand soldering. You know that, Rahul, which need hand soldering on the boards, right? It's very difficult to find people who can do good all hand soldering, right? Despite of the ITIs and everything that we have. So I think we need private institutions. The government again has made an effort, but the people who come out of these government training schemes, and no, I'm not trying to be critical of the government. I think the government and the private training institutions have to kind of tune themselves and work very closely with the industry rather than developing a program, unilaterally, which may not fit what the industry needs. So I think there needs to be a greater collaboration. Like the Silicon Valley and the academia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Connection there in the Silicon Valley. Something like that. We need a greater coordination.
Absolutely. Awesome. Actually, so maybe we'll start winding down a bit, right? So maybe last question and then let's wrap up, right? So just to maybe Charan, for you, how have you seen, right, pre-COVID and post-COVID? You looked at it, demand supply. I mean, how are you looking at how the world has changed, right, between what was prior 2019, 2020 and where we are today?
Yeah, sure.
I think, it's very interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. In the pre-COVID, all the people are looking for the software jobs and the software type of systems. And while in the COVID time, all are looking for the online type of system and the work from home. And all the people are fed up with that particular part, the targeting systems. The companies are pressurizing them to complete the particular targets and this all. And when we go with another coding, like a software part, here we have to do the coding in the more accurate way. If we do the small mistake in the particular line, we will be getting as bugs and that all. But after the post-COVID, right now the manufacturing sector is more growing than the software sector. The software sector is going to be degraded, and the manufacturing sector is going to be improved. One is all the people are looking for the offline type of things, and not only offline type of thing, all are looking for the productivity development. And the government also supporting to the companies like the MSME schemes and the MSME Z certification schemes. It makes the help to companies to grow themselves, and the lot of startups also came up with a product based companies. And here the government is supporting as well as the product-based companies also getting as the great ideas to whatever the like if you want to make as a product-based companies in a best taste, whatever the requirement of the particular prospectus of customers will be, according to that only we has to go on. And not only that, the prospectus of the customers, we has to work like the advanced technologies. Like here we are working as like a robotics and artificial intelligence, data science, this all. It is an advanced technology. We have to think about for the next 5 years, what was we have to predict it that. According to that, we have to move on to that particular scenario. Then we will be stand up in the market.
All right. No, that's great. That's awesome. Actually, we'd love to have the conversation further, but we're running out of time. So maybe why don't we do a quick last round? So, Mr. Gururaj, any closing remarks as you wind down the chat?
I think the in relation to what the topic is, and that is, dream of doing more in manufacturing. I think given, as we have said already, the geopolitical situation, the need for manpower, and many things put together, I think we will see growth, quite considerable growth further to what we are already seeing in the India area of manufacturing in India. I have no doubts about it.
So great. CharaN, anything you would like to conclude with?
Right now, we are working with a robotic part only, but within 5 years, like by the 2025, here we are going to enter into the charging sector also, like automatic charging sector. Here we are going to use like NDVA batteries, it will be done by the nuclear waste. If we give the particular charging to that particular battery, we'll be getting the continuous power till the 25 years. And here we are going to implement that particular batteries in the charging station. We are going to revalue, develop the India in a better way.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much. I think as you all heard, right, from all three of us, we are pretty bullish about the fact that we have a lot of tailwinds, and we all truly believe that this is going to be the decade when you will. I think in manufacturing in India is going to leapfrog. So with that happy note, thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.